Hey everybody, it's a Saturday morning here, and so I'm up here working on our new 3D printer. So we've done 3D printing for about 10 years now, since I was in grad school, and it was time to upgrade. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we decided to upgrade and what printer we chose. Okay, so the first question is, why are we upgrading printers? Why did I spend money on another printer when we have one that's working perfectly fine? Well, the printer that we have is now a little over 8 years old, which a lot's happened in 8 years in 3D printing if you've kept up with it. Materials are more advanced, printers have better resolution, printers have really nice things like automatic or aided bed leveling, which we didn't have on that printer. For its time, it was a fantastic machine, but it's time to move on a little bit, get some of the newer technology. Also, this printer that we've got right now only has one print head, so I can't do a support material and an actual print material. I can't do dual color prints or multi-prints. The other thing is I can't use any advanced materials. So we recently had a project where I needed to print PETG plastic, and our printer just really couldn't handle it. We bought a roll of PETG, we could get it up to temperature, but it just never had a very good print. And we played with the settings for a couple of days on that. So PLA, it's great. ABS, it's okay. Everything else, it just didn't seem to work that great. Which is fine. PLA and ABS were the primary materials when that printer came out. There wasn't any of this PETG or HIPS. Polycarbonate was out of the question at the time. Nylon, carbon fiber reinforced plastics, none of that existed. So really it's to get more materials, to get newer technology, easier to use. Some more integrated internet connectivity would be nice, of course. And that multi-material, multi-extruder workflow is something that we really wanted. Because we do have some products that are low volume enough that we have a problem machining all these complicated components where the setup might take an hour or an hour and a half or even 2 hours to make 3 parts that take 10 minutes each on the machine. It just makes the cost of the product to our end customer very high. And on these educational products that we make, a lot of them we don't sell even 10 a year of a given product. Some that we obviously do. There's some that we sell 50 a year or more. But a lot of them are more in that 5 to 10 a year ballpark range. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to machine a lot of those components. So 3D printed components where they can be used, where they're strong enough, are quick, they're easy, and they're actually still kind of novel to most people that are buying products. While a lot of hobbyists have 3D printers in the home, there's still more homes than not that don't have 3D printers or haven't interacted with 3D printing that much. So we thought it would be another neat way to showcase ways that we embrace different technologies for making your products. So we decided that it was time to upgrade. It's getting close to the end of the year, which of course is when all businesses are looking at the books, deciding how much do we want to spend on upgrading equipment versus how much do we want to put into other things and how much do we want to carry over to next year. So that's all for why we're upgrading. The next question is, what are we upgrading to? So I researched quite a bit. Of course, Prusa is a very big name in the 3D printing game. They've got a new 3D printer that's coming out that's actually got 5 extruders and a very large build area. But if I pre-order it now, it's still about a year wait, maybe more. And it's the first gen of that model. So there's a lot of unknowns there. Prusa has printers that have been on the market for years, but that's sort of the problem. They've been on the market for years. They're actually not that big of an upgrade over what we had. So I was very torn. Do I go with a known name that's not a huge upgrade, or do we go with something that's maybe a little less known, at least to us, and go out of our comfort zone a little bit? So I looked at, there's the Crealities, and finally got a recommendation from another local business that came through one of our employees here of Flashforge. And we looked into their products and decided we were going to try the Flashforge Creator 3 Pro. So it's their most recent Pro model of their just under the industrial printers. The industrial printers that are up there, are huge. They're when you get into the $20,000-$70,000 range printers. We're not quite ready to go there. We have a rep from our local Haas factory outlet, which is Phillips Corp, that has brought in and shown us the Markforged line of printers. They were really nice. But again, we're looking there at kind of a $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 entry point, depending on where we wanted to go. And then if we want to go really nice with those, we're looking at the many tens of thousands of dollars, potentially even more than our milling machine. And decided I didn't want to do that. So that left us going back to something like the Flashforge printers, which is what we decided to do. This printer has dual heads, and they're independent. They call it IDEX, independent dual extruder, which means the two heads don't move together. They each have an X driver. So they're tied together in Y. The build plate moves in Z, but that lets us actually either print two things at once with the same material or different materials, as long as the Z heights are synchronized. Or we can use two materials. So I could have dual color, or I could have a support and a building material. Or I can do something totally wacky, I guess. Whatever you can imagine you can do with basically two 3D printers, just tied together in two axes. So that's what we decided to go with. We ordered it. We ordered it from the USA distributor, Flashforge USA. It got here quicker. We didn't have to worry about shipping and duties and all of that. It was just very, very slightly more expensive. I ordered a bunch of filament. It actually arrived almost a week ago, and we just have been very busy trying to get a couple of jobs out, and we couldn't stop on those. They were very important and very time sensitive. So it's had to sit there staring at us. When it came, the guys pulled the box off of it just to make sure that there was no obvious shipping damage, and there it sat. So it sat out there for several days. I couldn't take it anymore, so I had to come in on a Saturday and give it a shot. So what we're going to see is I'm going to move the old 3D printer off the stand that it was on. We're going to set this one up. We're going to do quite a bit of rearranging here in the shop in the next few weeks, really. So I'm not making anything too permanent, but want to set it up on that table for now and just see if we can get a first print going today. And then we'll start learning about some of the more advanced filaments as we go along. But if I can get one thing printed in PLA today, I will have achieved my goal. Well, here it is in the room. This is the Flashforge Creator Pro 3 that we just purchased. Pretty excited to get this set up. Right now it's on the same table that we built for our Lulzbot Taz printer, which is currently on the workbench over behind me. So yeah, we're gonna try to set this thing up, and we'll see how long it takes to do. I'm anticipating a couple of hours just to get everything unpacked, some filament installed, get it booted up, and then hopefully we can get a 3D print started before I have to go to a meeting later on this evening. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so I just got it all set up. It took not nearly as long as I expected, maybe about half an hour to do. We did, as soon as I connected it to the internet, I have to do a firmware upgrade. Overall, the setup was pretty good. The quick start guide told me most of what I needed to know. There were maybe just a couple of small confusing wordings in the quick start guide, but overall, it was pretty nice. The auto leveling, or the semi-auto leveling, was pretty intuitive. It used what looks like a non-contact, probably eddy current probe back here to probe a few places on the bed, and then it would show you a knob and say to turn it so many degrees in a certain direction. That was okay. For smaller increments, 90, 270, those are pretty easy. Did require a little bit of thought when it would say turn the knob 405 degrees clockwise as to what that would actually look like. And also clockwise is from the bottom. But luckily on the screen it did show you a little arrow of what direction you would turn these. But overall that didn't take too long. Just took a little bit of thought here and there. And it would check multiple times, so as you got closer, the numbers would get easier to work with. And about the least increment it did was 5 degrees. So now the firmware update's completed, and we have to turn it on. I've been told from other people that have this printer that it's very loud on the turn on. When it completed its firmware update, that was the case. So let's see. Way back here on the back is the power switch. I'm going to turn it off. We wait our requisite, 5 or 10 seconds here. And then we turn it back on. Yeah, that was pretty loud and annoying, but luckily it seems to be short. Got some nice lights in there. The other printer didn't have that. You can see I didn't load anything in the left print head. I just loaded this blue PLA that came with the printer. So it came with a roll of blue, a roll of white. It came with a bag of tools, scraper and some other things. I haven't unpacked all that yet. And it came with what I assume are the high temperature all metal extruders for working in some of the more exotic materials. But of course our first print is just going to be plain old PLA, something simple that we could do with our other printer. But let's give it a shot. So now we need to go install the software. Okay, so now that we've got the printer set up, I'm going to do the software. And I know software videos aren't necessarily super fun to watch, so we're going to keep this short, hopefully. There is not any information in the quick start guide about how to do this. So all I'm going to do, I Googled Flashforge downloads and got to this download center page. I'm going to find my printer, which is the Creator 3 Pro. I'm not sure what the difference between the Creator Pro series and the Creator 3 series is. This is a Creator Pro 2, a 3 Pro. That's a little confusing, but okay. That's the printer that we've got. I'm going to go ahead and download the user manual and keep that in my downloads. So Creator 3 Pro User Manual. I never use spaces in file names. And the quick start. And we'll just do that, but we'll take user manual out. And this is for our internal wiki documentation system, so we have these PDFs always and forever. So that's documents. Okay, yeah, so that's why it's manuals. It just updated its own firmware. Now let's click over to software. Okay. I don't think we want dental. I'm not sure what some of these others are. We don't have a wax jet. DL, I believe, is going to be like for the laser style. So let's do flash print. It'd be nice if they showed the compatible printers by this, or did some operating system detection here, but that's okay. Now let's get the most recent version, which looks like 5.5.1, released yesterday, and we're 64-bit Windows. And it downloads this zip file, and inside that's an exe. Now we are going to have one computer with all of the software for our printers and lasers and that sort of thing that's more dedicated. But today I'm just trying to see if I can get any life out of this thing. So I'm just doing it on my computer right now. Yes, we want to allow it to make changes. It's going to install a driver. We're going to install. And let's launch FlashPrint. Okay, our machine type is a Creator 3 Pro. Looks like it modified our build volume for us there. Okay, so not bad. A couple minutes and we're ready to do something. Let's see, let's do connect machine. Let's allow it to scan. I did connect it to our internal network. Okay, it found it. That was quick. Okay. Okay, so we're connected. I guess I'm not ready to send G-code yet. The current camera is off. Oh, there we go. So there's a picture inside the machine right now. Cool. Let's see. I'm not sure what all these buttons are going to do. Is that going to take a screenshot? That's going to take a screenshot. That turns the camera on and off. Oh, that turns the light on and off inside the printer. The only file it had on it was this 20mm box, which I really don't care to print. So I'm going to go find something that I want to print. All right, so I went and downloaded Benchy, which is the standard little boat that shows all kinds of 3D printer capabilities. You know, there's some overhangs, there's some angles, there's some holes, some arches, this sort of thing. But we'll do a more formal actual test, but this prints pretty quickly and is a decent idea of how the printer is going to do. Let's see. I'm guessing I add a file here. Downloads, Benchy, files, Benchy STL. And there it is. It says there's a model error. Okay, so let's repair it and see what. Must have been a hole or something that didn't like. So it looks like right click and hold orbits. And it's very responsive orbit. I'm impressed. Wheel zooms and left click and hold pans. And there we go. Okay, that's relatively nice. And if we click the view button, we can set our view however we like. Let's see, that's move, rotate, scale, cut, duplicate, auto layout, support, wiping tower, not sure what that's going to be yet, multi-machine, and connect. All right, well, let's start slicing. I'm not sure what nozzle size we have. We'll go look at that. We've got PLA, and we only have material in the right printer head. We don't have anything in the left printer head. I guess we'll leave that set to PLA. There's no setting for none. Okay, so after doing a little bit of investigation on the printer, looks like the 0.4mm stainless steel nozzle is installed. So let's expert mode give us. Now we get to change some extruder settings and raft, and let's go back to basic. This is our first print. Slicing. What's our slice preview look like? Okay, so we get to see the different styles of paths here, like raft, brim, retraction. We see some of the G-code. Okay. Save to local, send to printer. So let's send that to the printer. Okay, so it sent the file to the printer. Now it says it's printing. That was fast. Okay. One of the complaints I saw a lot about this printer online was that the Z travel is very slow. It's taking a long time for the bed to move up and down. That's true, but most of the time, especially in the way that we are working here, we start a print and move on to the next task. So the fact that it takes a minute for that bed to travel, we're never sitting there watching it. We've got other things to do with our time. Okay, so it looks like we're homing everything. And we're probably going to start warming up. And this is actually pretty responsive. Some of the other gripes were about an older version of the software having very slow video frame rate. But this is streaming pretty fast, as we could see when the machine was moving. And now we see the platform temperature is rising. It's already almost up to 45. And probably once it gets that up to temperature, we're going to start seeing the extruder heat. I didn't really see what way to select. I don't know how I could print this on the left extruder if I wanted to. We may have had to go into advanced to do that. Okay, it's heating very quickly on the right extruder. So we'll let this get started and check in as it goes through. Okay, so this is the first print. I noticed that it had drooled a little bit of extra plastic out. And as you can see, we actually didn't bond to the build plate. I'm going to stop the print. Yes, I'm sure. All right, yeah, there we go. What a mess. Okay, well, we're going to try it again. I'm going to print a local file, the 3D Benchy print. Close the door. And we'll try it again, see if that works or if we have to do some more troubleshooting. Well, it's now the next day. It actually turns out that I had to start the print again because it failed a second time. And we'll talk about that more at the end, what I figured out about why that was happening. And it seems to be a pretty common problem on initial setup of this particular model of printer. So anyway, let's go in and see what the print looks like. I had to start it and then leave. I checked in remotely with the camera, and it was doing fine. It had bonded and was almost done printing. But then I had to go to a meeting, and we'll just have to see what it looks like. Okay, well, we have a Benchy, it looks like. Actually looks very nice. There's maybe a little bit of a offset here, can't tell exactly. But let's see, so we can take this build plate off. It's flexible build plate, but this is pretty small. So yeah, it just pops right off there. And we get this initial bit off. Sometimes that's a little bit tricky. Maybe we'll try flexing the build plate for that and see if that works. But yeah, so we've got our Benchy. We'll take a closer look at it back in the office and see how we think the printer did. Okay, so this is what we got off the printer. And first impressions looking at it, it looks really good compared to what a Benchy from our Lulzbot looks like. I guess it's not too surprising. This has a finer nozzle on it. It's got the 0.4 millimeter nozzle on. I believe our Lulzbot had a 0.6 right now. So the layers are much finer. You can certainly still see the layers, not too surprising. The text on the bottom actually came out really quite decent for being in a little bit of an overhang there. But you can see the round windows and the archways came out pretty well. Even the texture on the roof came out nicely. So overall, I'm pretty impressed. It does look like there might be, and I can't tell, I have to look a little more closely at the model, maybe a little bit of an X offset in some of the layers, which would be a little bit odd, but it's very tiny. So it could honestly be a model artifact or a slicing issue. We didn't do, as you saw, too much tuning. We just kind of gave it a shot. So having done one print on the printer now, we're certainly not in position to give a thorough review of it, and we are going to do that after we've got some experience with it. But what do I think so far? Well, we did have to try, we had 2 failed prints before we had 1 successful print. Now, the reason for that turned out to be the Z-axis height calibration. So we'd done the bed leveling, and in the book it says you don't need to do anything else. Well, you do. The Z-height calibration that was set at the factory was not adequate. And this appears to be a common thing with this particular line of printers from Flashforge, is the Z-axis is set at the factory. Once you get it, once you level it, it's not right. So it was printing just a little too high, and we didn't get a good bond to the build plate. They had a tool that we just slid under the nozzle and ran through the Z-height leveling routine. It took maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and then I re-leveled just to be good and reset the Z-height. I did that a couple times to get everything tuned in perfectly. And after that, I had no problems. The third print after I did that worked great. So we're going to have to play with more materials, obviously. This is PLA, so this is pretty easy to print. I want to try doing some of the harder materials, the PETGs, the polycarbonates, maybe even some of the carbon fiber reinforced materials. But first we need to get competent with the tool, right? So that's when you have any new piece of equipment, any new tool, the first steps are baby steps. Learn the basics. Though I've done 3D printing for a long time, this is a new printer. I need to learn the quirks. I need to document those quirks so that other people in the business know them. And they need, when they find new things, to put that in that documentation. So one of the big things that we focus on here actually quite a bit is building a knowledge base of how to work all the different tools in the shop. And this is no different, even though it seems pretty simple. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to start doing some 3D prints for production. We're going to start trying some different materials. So make sure you stay tuned. There will be more videos on that, obviously, as we're trying out new things, learning new things, and putting new things in our knowledge base and in yours. Of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that. We appreciate you watching this video. We've got more videos like this lined up, as well as a lot of content over on our blog on the website. All those links are in the description below, of course. And if you're looking for something else to do right now, why don't you check out this video from our channel. Thanks for watching.